So welcome everyone. Uh, it's funny I say a new episode of, but because it's not really regular, and you never know when the new episode comes out, and it's a bit random, and there are technical problems. But I would love to talk about abstract games with people who know a lot about it. And today we have very important column of the of our community, giant of our community, Dave Dyer. Welcome.
Welcome. I've never been called a column before. Usually the word is pillar.
Pillar. Okay, perfect. I used my Italian to.
Yeah. My Italian is not existent, so you're way ahead of me.
That's okay, but I think column was still pillar sounds better. But I hope people understand. Okay, Dave. How are you? You good?
I'm fine today.
What time is it?
It's 10 a.m.
10 a.m. in LA. Okay. You're in LA, right? Yeah.
Yep.
In London here, UK is 6 p.m. Actually, I want to mention something quickly. Maybe we'll already get into. I discovered that you designed some games as well.
It's not the primary thing, but a lot of times there is a game that I like and I would like to have on BoardSpace, but for one reason or another, you can't get permission to implement it from the implementers or from the IP owners. So I do my own thing.
Okay. So more than designing
Right.
is
So, for instance,
arranging, readjusting.
I've always wanted to have some word games, and I discovered that this publicly available dictionary was available, which is the big, stumbling block to having word games. You have to have a dictionary. So after I discovered this dictionary, I wanted to implement something like Scrabble, but of course, Scrabble is owned by somebody, and it's impossible to get permission. So I designed my own game that's in the same family as Scrabble, but it fixes things that I think are could be fixed about Scrabble, and so it's on my site as something that you can play that's like Scrabble.
Okay, I see. Maybe we'll talk about that later, because it just came to my mind because one of the games that I found on Board Game Geek is called One Day in London.
Yep.
But
that was because there was another game, or there's 10 days in Africa, Europe, etc.
Oh, okay.
And I really like those games, and I just had this idea that the London subway system is really amazing. Compared to LA has a subway system that has like 3 trains, but London is just amazing. So
it's one of the oldest, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Have you been to London? Have you?
Several times, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever come again, we probably should meet.
Yeah.
So
anyway, One Day in London was, my concept of a game that's sort of like the 10 Days In games, except based on the actual London subway system. And I think it's nice. I mean, it gets played a little.
So it's like a map game.
Right. So it's a planning game, where you have to figure out a route through the subway system that gets you, a continuous trip.
I see. A bit like a Ticket to Ride style.
Something like that, yes. Anyway, my current game that I just declared finished, that's another of the same sort. If you know this game, Wingspan, is just enormously popular.
Yeah.
And immediately when I started, learn to play Wingspan, I thought, wow, there's lots of other things that could be done with the same concept. And for me, the immediate thought was insects.
I mean, I
because
wouldn't be surprised if they publish it at some point.
well, so then over a period of time, um, they came out with Wormspan, which is not worms but dragons,
That's right.
and most recently Finspan, which is fish. And so those are just validating the idea that there are lots of span games out there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I developed a game called, it was originally going to be called Bugspan, but I have a good relationship with Jamie Stegmaier. He lets me. So he said, "Don't call it Bugspan. Span is ours."
Yeah.
So it's
You don't want to be
Bugspiel.
sued.
So the game is
Bugspiel.
Bugspiel. And the real stumbling block to doing that was that I'm not an entomologist, and I really felt, to get the accuracy of the scientific aspects of the bugs, I needed an entomologist, and that stalled things for a very long time. And then I discovered ChatGPT, and it is the most amazing research assistant you can possibly imagine. So I used ChatGPT to develop the scheme for which kinds of bugs and the descriptions for all the bugs and the pictures for all the bugs. It was just amazing. Very frustrating to work with, but it's like a very capable research assistant that doesn't really want to working with ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's another question actually I had for
Yeah.
later because
Anyway, so anyway, this complete game, I have a deck of 400 bugs,
oh
uh,
wow.
and the game is, conceptually at that level modeled after Wingspan, but it's a completely different game, because the thing I don't like about Wingspan is that it's solitaire.
Mm-mm-mm. There's not
So
much
this
interaction with the
Right.
other
So
players.
this is the game that has a lot more player interaction.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's on my website. I'm trying to get people to play it with not much success so far.
Yeah, so
One
we
of
start.
my long-term complaint about developing games for like for BoardSpace, it's really hard to get people to change.
Yeah, if they
So,
get
for
used to
instance,
something.
you're probably aware people that play chess, if you get them to play something else, it's just impossible. No, sorry, I play chess.
I know something about this.
Yes, yes.
It's a
So
different kind of people
that
in a
that
way.
but that applies to all kinds of games. That whatever they like until they, of course, don't like it eventually because they got sick of it. But trying to get people to change from one thing to another or to pick up a new thing is just incredibly difficult.
Yeah. So yeah, we started from actually, I started from the design, but I should have started from actually what you are more known for, which is BoardSpace.net, which is this platform in Java. Am I correct?
Yes.
That has tons of AppSet games. I don't know what's the number now. How many games you have now? Right now,
The count is something like 110.
110. Wow.
Yeah. Of those, three-quarters are abstracts.
Yeah, most of these are abstract. Or I mean, sometimes there is a bit of luck, but yeah, I think we
Yeah.
can consider
Well,
most of
everyone,
them.
that's another, splitter versus lumper kind of controversy. How abstract does it have to be abstract?
Yeah, of course, that's another story.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can spend hours to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
So the very first game on BoardSpace was Zerts.
oh yeah,
And there's a pre-story about, when I had the idea of just having an online site at all. But what pushed me over the edge to actually do it was Zerts, because I was playing Zerts by email on Richard's PBEM server. And I had this tool called ZF1, Zerts for One. which was just a board that, an electronic board that lets you play through variations and plan. So I was playing by email, and I was spending many hours planning my moves. And it was just, an incredible time sink. And I decided I must play this in real time where, you can't spend hours. And that pushed me over the edge to actually start BoardSpace.
Did you have a physical set of chairs back then?
Oh, yes,
Or
yes. I bought I bought the game. I liked it. Of course, I couldn't find anyone to play with. So I started playing online on
classic?
this email server. So I started BoardSpace so I could play Zerts in real time with other people. And the other people part was important. And I also implemented a robot so that you could have something to practice against when there were no people available. And to my surprise, people mostly like to play the robot.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I noticed that for Hive as well. Like a lot of people want to download an app on their phone and play when there's no one, and not just when there's no one else around. Also, even when there is someone else around, they prefer to play with a bot. Like maybe it's, I don't know, a
Well,
bit
there's no
embarrassing.
There's no
Yeah,
embarrassment from losing to a bot.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you can do it and do it and do it until you win, and then you say, I defeated the bot, and you
Yeah,
go on and it's the next step or whatever.
but I feel also people get fed up
Yeah.
quickly at some point.
Well, if they
I
never
mean,
win, then they get fed up. But people that write the offline, play against the bot thing are very good at dribbling out progress, so that you'll have the illusion at least that you're getting better and you're getting closer and you're defeating the bot at a better level than before, so on. So it's just addictive, or it's designed to be addictive. Anyway, that's one of the reasons BoardSpace has bots for almost all the games, but I don't let you play them offline. You have to be online to play the bots. And it's because online, at least there's a chance you can play other people. If you're offline on your phone or on your computer, just playing by yourself, it's like being in a closet.
yeah. So it's not just because of the way BoardSpace is made. Like it was a choice.
No, when I'm doing development, of course, I play the bots all the time, or I don't usually play complete games. But when I'm developing the bots, I do that offline. Right now,
No,
I'm
but
busy.
I meant the fact that people can only play with the bots online was a deliberate choice.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And
Okay,
I've
interesting.
made a lot of gradual changes in my policies over time, but that's one that I have not violated yet.
I think, I think I agree. I think it's a very cool thing. It's important to foster some interaction between people, not just, as you said, stay in a closet.
Yeah.
Even if you never see the other person, but there's just a different feeling.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you there is another person on the other side of the screen somewhere in the world is different.
Yeah. And for many games, it's really nice to play with Zoom. I do that all the time with friends and family, but not so much with strangers. When I'm playing games online on BoardSpace or on, I play on VGA too fairly frequently. I never play with video unless it's with somebody that I know. So, and so I think video enhances the capabilities when you're playing with friends, but it's not really a good tool for strangers.
No, yeah,
Except
sure.
for Moshalon, which is, once again, it's organized specifically that you have to play with a particular person and you're supposed to get to know them a little bit and so on. And that's different because you've got a specific person you're supposed to play. When you're just online looking for a random game, you don't want to have video with a random person.
Yeah, exactly. That's different. We'll talk about that as well. because there are a few games in the Mochalund, the World Championship of Abstra games for national teams, that have there are a few games played on BoardSpace. And you're playing for the rest of the world team, right?
Well, so much, it's really the leftovers team. It's really embarrassing that the United States can't field a team.
It's weird, but I mean, we know abstract games are quite niche, and finding time to play, not everyone wants to, or so I guess that happens. But yeah, there are other countries that surprisingly have a lot of. I mean, not surprisingly, just statistically, you might think there is less interest or smaller groups, but actually, there's Colombia. There is. What do we have? Well, I mean, in Europe we have a few: Germany, Italy, France.
And last year, didn't we have like 3 teams from Iran or?
They were from Turkey,
Turkey,
from
right?
Iran,
3 teams
from Iran.
I mean, they're not small places, but still,
Yeah, well, also situation politically is complicated, I think. So it's harder for them. But quite a few people from all around the world. I know. Yeah, the idea is, as you said, that if it's a bit more safe environment, it's nice to see the other person in the eyes and get to chat a little bit, find out what other people in the world do while they play games.
Yes.
So when did this start? When did BoardSpace start? Can we do like a bit of a history?
I believe it's almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years, okay. And it was Zerts at the beginning.
Zerts was the beginning. Then the second game was Lines of Action, which I had already written a program for, as part of my prior training. And it's still one of my favorite games. And then third was Plateau, which was another game that I liked a lot, and I was playing not by email, but there was a program that lets you play the game by email, person to person rather than through a server. It used it would encrypt your move and send, because in Plateau there's hidden information. It would encrypt your move and send it to the app for the other person to use, and then it would decrypt it and show them what they're supposed to see, but not what your actual move was, and so on. Anyway, Plateau was number 3. I think Hive was number 4.
Okay, we get there.
So Hive was very early, and of course, Hive is still like the most popular abstract on BoardSpace, and I think it's my greatest success, actually, because I'm sure that without Hive being on BoardSpace, the Hive community would never have grown the way that it has. At least the online Hive community.
Absolutely, the first Hive World Championship was like. You started it, right? You opened registration.
Well, it was really just a tournament online.
I know. We just
it sort of got branded as the World Championship. But that also is, I think a success story. That after I'd run the tournament for a few years, like 3, some of the better players organized a committee to say, we don't like the way you're running the tournament. We want to run it ourselves. And I said, great.
I mean, yeah, but if it wasn't for you starting it,
because
probably.
As running a tournament, administering it, and dealing with disputes and dropouts and all that, it's an incredible pain. So I'm just perfectly happy to have someone else running tournaments.
Yeah, I understand. I agree, or even though I am in the committee myself. but at least it's good to share the pain with others.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely. I mean, but even the first year, there were quite a few people, right? Maybe like 40 people played in the tournament, something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Which is not too far. I mean, now we have maybe 100,
Yeah.
so it's not.
Well, there should be a lot more. I mean, Hive is a really good game, and it's
I mean,
incomprehensible to me that more people don't play.
I mean, yeah, there are probably so many reasons. Apart from chess and Go, it's very hard to create a competitive community. There are, I mean, it sold so many copies, but find someone who plays it regularly is harder. Even
Yep.
though on BGA and now with HiveGame.com, I think we have quite many people playing at the same time.
Yep.
Mostly per correspondence. But as you said, also if you don't have a bot, sometimes it's hard to convince someone to stay on the platform.
Yep.
Um,
Well, there's so much competition for everyone's attention,
yeah, of course. I mean, Hive is my favorite, but I like to play many other games, and I understand you will need 20 lifetimes to actually, if you really want to play everything. And yeah, there's competition also from many other board games, like non-abstract, let's say.
Yeah. Well, an important thing about abstract games is that for the most part, any two players can only play a few times because you quickly determine who's better, and then it's not interesting to play anymore.
Yeah.
So if you get two people that are very close, then you can, and if you're improving over time, genuinely improving, then you can have a competition that lasts, forever. But for the most part, any two people play, you determine who's better, and then it's no longer interesting to play because the outcome is not in doubt. And that's part of a design problem with abstract games. Less so with games like Go because of the excellent handicapping system and just the overall complexity. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But most simple abstract games, after the initial learning curve, you reach a plateau and that's it. You're done. You're never going to get better. And whoever you can beat at that level, yes, and whoever you are beaten by, yes, and there's no more to learn.
Well, I think this plateau problem. I mean, of course, in Go and chess and other complex games, but there are many other games that are not less complex than those, right? Or they are similarly complex. So I think the problem is mostly in the number of players in the community. How large is the community? Because as you said, if you just play with your mate, your family, and you have a sample of 3-4 players, then yeah, you quickly, and as you said, you quickly have a ranking. But if you have a chance to play with 1,000 people, then it becomes way more interesting.
Right.
But it's a sort of positive feedback. Like the more people you have in, I think the more people enjoy. And but you have to reach a sort of critical mass, probably. I don't know. Something like that. It's it's not easy.
Yeah. So it's for repeated play, uncertainty about the outcome is a requirement. And most simple abstracts don't have that property.
Talking about
Anyway, we were talking about uncertainty in abstract games.
Yeah. Okay. How the community is.
So Hive doesn't have any uncertainty, which is except that it does have chaos. When you start, when you get to the phase of the game where you're trying to close in on the queen, the situations become completely chaotic with the moves you can make to forestall getting trapped and so on. I'm just amazed. I've been for the last couple of weeks. I've been working on improving the Dumbot for BoardSpace, And so I'm studying all of these endgame positions that the robot fights out against itself. And it just can go on and on and on with surprising, oh, if you do this move, it forms a gate, and then you can't. And it just, you know,
It's very rich, yeah.
it's very rich, very rich. And it also makes it very frustrating for developing the robots, but that's a different question.
Actually, yeah, what you posted on Discord, that end game problem.
Oh yes, right. Oh,
was interesting.
I've got a whole menagerie of those that are coming up as I work on this robot. So I'm changing around in this new version of the robot some basic ideas about how to score a game, internally.
Okay.
And there are a very large number of tunable parameters. But after you've developed the basic ideas so that it works well, you can tune the parameters so that any particular situation it will do the right thing, but that will make it in other situations do the wrong thing. And so it's a case of trying to find the happy medium where it does the right thing the largest percentage of the time, but the parameter space is gargantuan, so you can't really do it in any definitive way, but you can sort of by the seat of the pants verify that this change that I want to make doesn't break anything from my set of test problems, and so therefore is probably okay. But
I mean, it's one of the beautiful thing, I guess, of like one of the sign of a rich game, but it has some heuristics, but also many exceptions. Otherwise, if there were just heuristics, there would be everyone would follow these rules, and that would be too easy, right?
That's right. That's right.
So your bots don't use neural networks, right? Or
no, none of them use neural networks. Some of them use alpha beta and traditional evaluators, and some of them use Monte Carlo tree search, which is basically there's no evaluator, but you play out the game a lot of times, and there's a feedback mechanism to choose the better moves. And a few of them use rules-based, look at all the components and algorithmically select the best move based on just a simple evaluation. But none of them use neural networks. I've experimented with that, but you really need a lot more CPU, to develop that. It just takes an enormous amount of training to go from not doing anything at all to playing a decent game.
I see. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about all this deep learning revolution?
Oh, it's fabulous. I was, when I read, was it 5 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 now, that AlphaGo had played professional games against Go professionals and won. That was something I never expected to see. From basically my whole programming life, Go programming has been sort of a background hobby of mine. So I started writing a Go program in 1970, and of course never really succeeded in anything. Some very simple problem solving things I could get it to do, but playing an overall reasonable game, never. And then for a long time on BoardSpace, I had a little sidecar where there was a server where people could use bots to play Go against one another, so that there was a scheduling system. Anyway, so people were developing Go playing programs that were mostly based on Monte Carlo techniques. And it got pretty good on a 9x9 board, which is, the baby board that people use. It got so it was fairly decent on a 9x9 board, but not anything, credible for playing against people.
Okay. So
And that
not
was sort
just...
of, and that was sort of the state of the art, is that, programs could play a quasi reasonable game on a tiny board. And then there was AlphaGo. Wow.
So what was the highest level that a Go program could reach before AlphaGo?
Before AlphaGo, there were some programs that could beat a rank beginner, but that was about it.
Not even near Dan.
No,
player.
not even near Dan. There were programs that could play, at 9Q or something like that.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, it's really
from 9Q to 9 professional.
Yeah. So it was an incredible leap. And of course, that was only the beginning. Now the Go programs are used to teach the pros.
Yeah. But as you said, it's also, I mean, of course, it's the technical skills of the people at DeepMind, but also the amount of CPU that the hours of training in games.
The amount of training required to train the program is enormous, but then once it's trained, the playing CPU is very modest.
Okay, so once one has done
at least
work,
at least a very modest playing program can be very good now because it's using this network that was trained at enormous expense.
I'm always surprised, like, if you play so well on 19x19 board, I would expect that the 9x9 board is pretty much solved or something like that.
I think the 9x9 board actually is solved, at any, I mean, not solved in the mathematical
not strongly
sense,
solved,
but human analysis has solved the 9x9 board, but nobody has gone much beyond that.
It's interesting also for Hive what is happening now. There are a few bots and AIs around, but nothing really pro level. And of course, I mean, it's just a matter of time. But
it's nice to have a game where you don't need to worry that people are cheating by using a robot.
Yeah, that's definitely good.
And that won't last forever. I've experimented a little bit with the bots that are being added to Hive game, and they're okay, but they're not great.
Yeah, no, nothing crazy.
And I don't think they're going to get a lot better using the alpha beta kind of technique. It's possible that in the future a neural network based one will be much better, but it requires somebody to invest a lot of CPU time, which means money.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
or there are some very successful sort of crowdfunding things, but Hive doesn't have enough of a crowd to be able to distribute the learning process and get anywhere with it. So there's another AlphaGo kind of thing called AlphaZero that was they just put up a server and said, download this program. Oh yeah, right. Download this program and let it run on your computer, and it'll contribute results. And it actually reached a very good level. But the Go community, of course, is huge, So they got a lot of participation and were able to, in the long run, collect a lot of data that way. But Hive doesn't have that large community.
Yeah, definitely not. Or we should do like it was done for Arima, where we should have like a prize for the AI that beats judoka or quadribet, one of the high world champion. But I think, yeah, no, I think the most of the people enjoy so much playing with other human players without, yeah, being afraid of cheating. That on one hand, I'm very curious because I would really like to know how Superhuman Hive AI plays. But on the other hand, yeah, all the problems that it could create as well doesn't make me so
Yep.
looking forward to. So we'll see. But it's a matter of time. Just.
But the end game in Hive is so chaotic when it's close that it's going to be very difficult to have an AI that does the right thing at the beginning to lead to a successful chaotic end game.
In the end game, the problem is the like the horizon of the software, right? Like the fact that they can't see that a beetle has to move like 10 steps ahead, or is it something like that? Or
it's just the number of possible interactions is astronomical, and at least my intuition is that no intuitive approach is ever going to solve it. You really have to be able to enumerate all of the interactions, which requires crunch.
But there are other games that are more complex than Hive, I guess, like Arima, or they have a higher branching factor.
Yep. Well, Hive has the interesting characteristic that it continues to get more complex as you progress toward the end game, whereas most games simplify. Chess, you get down, you've got a king and two pawns. Okay, great. Now we know what can be done. Arima, you got the last rabbit that's trying to run out. It simplifies the problem at the end game. Hive, because nothing ever gets eliminated, just continues to be more and more complex as things move around, trying to surround the queen. So Hive end games do not simplify.
I mean, a lot of pieces get pinned. So it is similar to chess, but I think it might be also because of the way we played, in a sense. Like if an AI was really good and it could defend very well, then even with those few pieces, you can end up in a situation when you free more pieces or the shape changes, and so it just goes for long. Maybe we don't play it well enough yet.
Anyway, there's a lot of depth in Hive end games, and I don't think that an AI is ever going to be able to predict that when it gets to that end game stage, it will be ahead. I think brute force is always going to be required to solve Hive end games.
Okay, so not even with neural networks, or I mean, in those cases, I think there must be some sort of that would be different.
Well, I don't know. I'm just working from my intuitions based on training these robots with alpha beta techniques. That the outcome of the game changes dramatically for any small change that you make in the beginning. So the third or fourth move, whether you place the ant here or there, or whether you decide to pin the newly placed piece or deploy a new piece, that decision, which is, something that your intuition says, oh, I should pin that piece, or I should ignore it and do something else instead. Tiny changes, any change makes a dramatically different end game. And I don't think, an AI will ever get it right in terms of knowing that this is better than that in any definitive way. It's going to be, the same kind of heuristic that leads to a good game fairly frequently, or not. And anyway, but once you get to that actual end game, all the heuristics are no longer relevant. It's just a question of crunching out all the possibilities, which are enormous.
I was thinking like AlphaZero, AlphaGo, they don't really know what's the best move, right? They basically statistically assume some moves are better than others, right?
Right.
So I mean, you're correct that the very first moves can have an impact after 50 or even 100 moves.
Well,
you have no idea.
That hard game 3 or 4 of the AlphaGo versus Yi, whatever his name was. Anyway, there's a cited, there's a cited, like move 27 when he played on the 5th line, and that turned out to be crucial 100 moves later, in the analysis. So, I looked at once an analysis of a Stockfish game that was Stockfish versus Chess Zero or whatever, where Chess Zero eventually won, and it was just amazing. I'm not really a strong chess player, but it was a course of 20 moves, each of which made a small shift where you could say, yes, this is just a little bit better than that, and a little bit better than that, and eventually the position collapses and the game's over. But those 20 moves leading up to it, where you say, well, maybe this is a little bit better than that, and that kind of thing, the AI is good at. But that's very hard to, for Hive, the end game doesn't simplify. So you make those early choices, and statistically you think you're doing okay, but then the actual chaos in the end game is really hard to predict.
I mean, I hope you're right, and I hope we keep. I mean, I think it's a matter of pride as well to play a game that is so rich, that is hard to crack. Since it seems pretty much everything can be cracked nowadays by AI. ChatGPT still cannot play a proper chess game, but well, we'll see one day.
I thought ChatGPT won a chess by cheating.
Yeah, it just comes up with it just puts new pieces on the board, or it just makes other pieces disappear. I tried to play Hive once as well, and it was like it was trying to. It was apologizing every time and trying to figure out the rules as we go, basically.
Yeah.
And then at some point he just gave up and said, "I'm sorry, I think we cannot play Hive because I don't have enough information." Blah blah blah. Well, what's the hardest game that you the hardest game to code, the hardest bot to implement on BoardSpace?
Well, I would say the hardest ones are the ones that are completely unsuccessful.
I guess so. Yeah. So if you want to phrase it that way, yeah.
So one of the games on BoardSpace is called Volo.
Yeah.
And that's a very positional game, and has an enormous move breadth. The game tree is very large, and nothing I've been able to do has made even a halfway credible game. So I've tried. It's not obvious at all what an alpha beta bot would use as an evaluator, and Monte Carlo just doesn't converge. Anyway, I've been completely unsuccessful at making a reasonable robot for Volo. So that has to be the hardest one because it's just completely impossible.
So in Volo, you basically try to connect these flocks of birds, right? Or you
Right.
place new pieces and you move them, but you can only move them like those that are already connected. They have to move in the same
They have to
direction together.
remain in the same. It's like Hive. The birds that are already connected have to remain connected.
Have to remain connected, but they have to move all together, right? In a certain, no, not all together, but some of them
They
at
have to
least.
remain connected so that if you got a blob of birds, part of the blob can sort of break off and slide, but it has to retain contact with
Yeah.
the blob as a whole. So you have these blobs of pieces which are trying to move toward each other. But you start with three corners basically. So you got to unite three groups, which,
Yeah.
and anyway, it's a very interesting game. But I've been completely unsuccessful at making anything like a reasonable robot for it. So that's, when someone asks me, well, what should I try, as an AI, to get some of the code, that's the one I say. That's the one that, someone really needs to get a good,
Okay.
spend a lot of CPU cycles and get that going.
Maybe we should have it in the Mochalund next year.
Yeah.
I think I
Oh,
played
yeah,
only once.
that would be interesting. Yeah. So another
Played
one
only
that's
once.
also difficult is Plateau.
How do you spell it?
Plateau.
Like the
Like the
plateau,
high.
like reaching the
Yeah.
plateau. Okay.
So that's difficult because it has a lot of hidden information which can be revealed in the course
Okay.
of the game.
When you have hidden information, it's always a bit harder to code, right? Or not necessarily.
Yes. Because you don't know how to deal with the hidden information. And if you, anyway, so Plateau is another one that's, I don't have a robot for Plateau because I never could figure out how to do the hidden information. But since Plateau is a very early game, at that time I always did alpha beta, and I didn't know how to evaluate the hidden information for that. Now, if I did it as a Monte Carlo, it would probably be possible to write to get a good result with the Monte Carlo bot, but it's a very old game, and I don't want to go back and mess with it again.
I guess the code changes as well, right? I mean, something you coded
Well,
20 years ago is
over
not.
time, I've evolved a coding style specifically for the games in BoardSpace, so that they all use a common framework and a common set of tools, and that makes the game development a lot easier. Because I know exactly how to do all these things, and when I say, "Oh, I need this kind of a feature," I can say, "Well, where did I do this before?" and go, look at how I solved the particular problem in a particular other game, and borrow code from myself.
The thing is, you have to be good at playing, or at least you need to have some sort of understanding of how the strategy develops in each of these games if you want to make a bot, right?
No,
Roughly.
no. Usually, well, it depends. If you look at games where you can imagine a number that says this position is better than that position, like chess. You can just count the wood, right? You say, if I've got more pieces, I'm ahead. If the game has that kind of a property, then you need to understand the characteristics of that property a little bit. If the game does not have that kind of a property, like Volo, for example, You say, well, pieces get closer together, and is that better, or is that worse, or is it better to add? Anyway, it's impractical to just say, oh, this, has a numerical score that's better than that. You don't need to understand the strategy for those games at all, because you're going to use Monte Carlo, and Monte Carlo does not require anything except that the game resolve.
Okay, I see.
But some games are very resistant to Monte Carlo because they tend not to resolve. So, games like like Hive, for example, where it doesn't lead to a conclusion. You can move pieces around forever. Monte Carlo tends not to get very good results because when you decide to stop the game and declare it over,
yeah, there's no definite number of moves
it
ending.
hasn't been moving toward a conclusion. It just happened to get to one. So you get very weak feedback for that for Monte Carlo. On the other hand, for Hive, you have a good idea that you're closing in on the queen. You've got mobile pieces, and so you can assign a number to that. So it's better for alpha beta.
I see.
But to do that alpha beta type of a evaluator, you do need to at least have a basic concept of what the game is. But mostly, I'm not talking about that kind of understanding, in terms of programming the games. It's a game has a particular kind of a feature that you want to accommodate, like, it's like Ordo, for example. It has this thing where if you sever the two groups, then you win the game. But how do you detect whether the game is won in an efficient way? Say, oh, well, the way you do it is you start at some random point and you go as far as you can and see if you got to all the points, and then whether you've got one group or multiple groups. So that technique of doing a flood fill to find out whether you're still connected or not is something I've done 100 times. So I say, well, I'm going to do this again, and if it's not all completely in my brain, I can go look at another game where I did the same thing, and just copy the code from that. When there are tricky problems of that sort. So I borrow code from myself all the time when I'm developing new games. It's more of abstracts are really very simple to program for the most part. It's more of a problem when you're doing Euro games where you have a lot of arbitrary rules. Like, the one that I've spent the most time on is Euphoria.
Okay.
Euphoria is a worker placement game, but the driving force in the game is there's a deck of 50, but then there are several different decks, so in aggregate maybe a couple hundred character cards, and each of these character cards changes the basic rules of the game in some way. So you get the basic rules of the game that you do this and you get that, but then these character cards introduce an exception.
Yeah. And there are more exceptions than rules.
And
that's the problem.
There are enormous numbers of exceptions, which you only have to deal with a few of them in any given game, but they interact. And so, dealing with the way you
here?
deal with the exceptions is a tricky problem. And I've coped with that in a number of games. So when I do a new game that has that kind of exceptions, I go refer to my prior art and see, well, how did I solve this problem in this other game? Another one that's tricky is when you have simultaneous moves.
Oh, okay.
I still so when the specification is all the players simultaneously do something, It's actually a natural for, conceptually for online games, because you don't have to hide anything, because the other players only see what you show them, and so you don't need to worry about, you know, tucking this card under your hand and revealing it all simultaneously or anything like that. But the problem is the communication for simultaneous games is never simultaneous. And so when you have the question of who does something first, it's very difficult, or it can be very difficult.
I see. Okay. I never. Yeah, I think I don't play enough games with hidden information.
Well, it's not hidden necessarily. It's just a question of simultaneity. So, for instance, one of the games I did recently is called Pendulum, which was it's a board game, but it's very carefully designed so that everyone plays at the same time most of the time in the game. So you set up the pieces in a certain way, and then you flip a timer, and then while the timer runs, you're free to do a certain number of things, which, includes setting up for the next time the timer is going to flip. The problem
Almost a
is,
real-time game.
and it is real time, and in most cases, what you're doing doesn't interfere with what anyone else is doing. So when you're playing around a table, if it is one of those interference cases where you say, "Oh, I'm going to take this card," or someone else is going to take this card, the rules say, well, if you both reach for the card at the same time, then there's this resolution mechanism that you say, well, whoever is higher on the priority track actually gets there first. And there's, a little slop in it. So it's designed to be played around a table so that if you're both reaching for it, you know who reached first for the most part.
While in real life, whoever has
but
the heavier hand
yeah,
catch the card.
but online, you both reached for the card, you both took it, and then the two programs that are on different sides of the internet communicate with each other, and they both think that they took it. So then you have the problem of deciding, well, who really took it, and then you got to do, Anyway, that's a tricky.
I see.
A tricky aspect that I've had to deal with in several different games. So I've now got, like a set of techniques that I use to do that kind of problem resolution.
I think also this goes a bit further out from the abstract, the abstract of word somehow.
Well, abstracts typically don't have that kind of activity.
It's quite rare. Usually, there are very few.
They're mostly very turn-based,
One that I've never played that I would like to try is the GIF one with the Tamsk, I think it's called.
Tamsk, yeah, that's on BoardSpace.
I should try it because this time element embedded in the the hourglasses. It seems interesting.
Right. Yeah, that one has the same resolution problem that you've got to move a piece before it's in Tamsk the pieces are hourglasses, so you've got to move them before they expire. But there's and mostly, your pieces that you're moving and your opponent pieces that they're moving are independent, but they can be the case that they both could move to the same square, and if they're both moving to the same square, then you have to decide who actually moved there.
I think I've seen something similar in I think it came after Tamsk, Quantum Chess or something like that, where the pieces are in a overlapping state, and at some point the sort of the supposed to be wave function of the piece collapses, and then you find yourself with a queen there or a pawn there or whatever.
I've got a game that is in my maybe I'll implement that someday list that's called Quantum. There are actually several games called Quantum, but this is an old one that's called Quantum, where you the board has a bunch of flippable pieces, and you shake the board.
Oh, okay.
And they all fall into a space, and then at that point you don't know what anything is. But when you pick up a piece, you flip it over and see what it is, and then you move it. So
That's
that it
interesting.
gradually reveals the identity of all the pieces. And you have some pieces that are known because you've moved them, and other pieces that are still unknown because you have not moved them yet. And nobody knows what they are until someone tries to move them.
But they are sort of hourglasses, like
No,
in that.
these are like weighted gems, that are some color on the other side. So
Okay,
that
so
you,
you
so
okay, okay.
when you place them, they all come up, blank, and then when you move them, you flip them over and you find out whether it's red or blue.
That's clever, actually. Yeah, it's very close to the actual scientific
Yeah,
idea of
yeah.
quantum state. Um, what's the next game that you would like to implement on, or what's the game that you really want to do it and you never done yet?
Well, actually, the next game is probably going to be Slither. I've done a couple of abstracts in a row, and those are really time consuming and difficult. Slither is going to be really easy. It'll take me a week and it'll be done. But I really liked the game when I played it a year or so ago for Moshalo, and it's coming up again this year. So I'll probably do that next. Now, the game that I've been wanting to do for a long time is called Palabra. It's a word game. It's another one of these things that was enabled by having a dictionary available. Anyway, it's a word game. It's played with cards. And it's sort of like Scrabble played with a deck of cards instead of with a set of tiles. There's a long story about getting permission to do this game, but the current state is the person who owns the game is in assisted living and is old and uninterested, but is unable to let go. And their representatives, their stepchildren, are sort of hanging on, saying, "Well, we can't do anything until mom dies."
Okay, so not much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to deal with these
But
things.
sometimes those things work out. Viticulture was, after I first encountered viticulture, I thought this is a great game, and I would like to put it on BoardSpace. So I contacted Jamie Stegmeyer, and he said, "Nope, sorry, it's not available. But you could do this other game if you like. It's called Euphoria." So I did, and then anyway, years later, I noticed that viticulture was listed as available on BGA. That is to say, BGA has a list of all the games that they claim they've got permission to implement that have not been implemented yet. And I noticed that viticulture was there. And I said, so I contacted Jamie again, and he said, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you can do it now." And he dumped, several gigabytes of artwork on me. And then,
Now it's there.
and that is, that was about 2020 was when I put it up, just before the pandemic.
Did you have a particular? Were you particularly productive during the pandemic, or like the number of
No,
games
not
increased on
any,
board space?
not
No.
anymore. I'm retired, and I retired about 10 years ago. And since then, my primary focus is things related to BoardSpace, and I work on it as much as I work on it, and there's nothing impeding me. So the pandemic was
So
like,
it didn't
okay,
change so
I
much.
used to be home all day working on various things. Now I'm home all day working on various things. What's different? For
I
me,
see.
nothing was different really,
Okay.
except that we didn't go out to eat a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Actually, I want to ask you something. Well, just something silly question, but do you think? I mean, I like there are so many games, but I feel sometimes it could be a barrier, the fact that it's harder to play in browser. And now I think it's possible, right?
Well, that's an
I,
interesting. Originally, it was possible to play in the browser because there was this Java. Um, anyway, Java was available in the browser, and so you could have Java applets that played in the browser.
mm,
And since it was all enabled by default, nobody knew really that it was not just something that was part of the browser. And then, for various reasons, which you know, I'm very unhappy about, Oracle, who owns Java, decided that they were no longer going to support the browser at all.
mm,
And it was all security nonsense. People were finding ways to abuse it. And rather than fix their problems, they said, "Screw it, we'll just discontinue that."
okay.
So at that point, I converted BoardSpace from being a Java applet, which ran in the browser from the viewpoint of everyone else, to being a Java application, which you had to install. Uh, and then, you know, mobiles became really big. And so I found a way to take the actual code that ran the Java in on desktops and convert that into a mobile app. So I
Mm,
don't have a separate application for the mobile apps. It's really the same code base. Um, and so I've got iOS apps and Android apps that go with the desktop apps. So you really cover all the platforms. And then I discovered this completely magical environment that's called CheerPJ. Uh, these people took basically the entire Java environment and they fed it through some process that converted it to JavaScript.
mm,
And the upshot is that it's able to take a jar file that is exactly the same jar file as runs on the desktop and run it in a browser by reading the jar file, converting it on the fly to JavaScript, and then running the JavaScript. The performance of doing that really sucks, but the performance of desktops is so vast these days that it almost doesn't matter. So now you can run BoardSpace in a browser again at 10% of the previous performance level, but it's still pretty acceptable.
mm. So there's no way to, like, you would have to recode everything in some other language. Is because Java is less popular nowadays, or
Well, no, it's because there's an awful lot of code.
uh, yeah, no, sure. So I mean, so Java is not supported anymore, and there's not much that you can do about it. Like,
Well, no, Java is still hugely supported and hugely popular, but it's mostly used for corporate applications, where you have a fancy user interface that you want people to use. So you can write that in Java. Java is a very widespread and popular language for writing standalone applications in.
mm. So
Uh,
because
but
you have a
but
board space app
but for
as well.
board space, there's now so much code that personally, saying, "Oh, I'm just going to rewrite this in some other language" is almost inconceivable, and especially a really awful language like JavaScript.
I think I read somewhere that you don't like C, or like you don't. Or,
Well, I have a web page that's the top 10 ways to get screwed by C.
oh yeah, maybe
It
that's
now
what I read.
has 20 or 25 ways. But anyway, yes, C is a really horrible language from the viewpoint of writing reliable programs. It's fine if it's no harder to write C than it is to write Java. It's just harder to write reliable C. And Java has many virtues from the viewpoint of writing programs that will only fail because they're wrong, not because they were written stupidly.
I see. Okay. So how are the bots written?
They're all written in Java.
Oh, okay. So everything is in Java.
Everything, well, everything, that's the game and the stuff that people use is in Java. The back end, on the web server, the glue is written in Perl, which is another, commonly used language. Not so common these days as PHP probably, but Perl is common. And the actual server that does the data interchange between the clients is written in C.
Okay, so you had to. But if you could write everything again from the beginning, what nowadays? What would you like today? What would you use?
Uh,
Would it be very different or?
I would probably write everything in Java now, but the C server part of it and the Perl glue part of it, is a lot of stuff to replace. So there's really no reason to replace it.
I don't know. I was just thinking hypothetically, if
Yeah,
you
but
wake up one day and you
in
have.
terms of languages that are available, if you're starting something from scratch, Java's still an excellent choice. But if you're interested in something that's going to be visible, as a web application, I don't know what you'd choose. JavaScript itself is what the underlying language is. There are a number of things that are layered on top of JavaScript, so that you don't have to deal with the awful things that JavaScript does.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd
Well.
probably do one of those, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anything about it. I was just curious. Also, the Hive game is in Rust, but I don't know if there is a. I think the only reason why it's in Rust is because the guys who wanted to build it, they
They
wanted
wanted to
to.
they wanted to use the cutting edge tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think there is a particular advantage of using Rust, as far as I understand. But it seems to be new and more and more people using it. So, what else? What can we talk about? I also read that you like photography. I think it was on your own page.
Well, I used to go on vacations and take, 40 rolls of film in a tin, and argue with the technicians that I didn't need to pass my rolls of film through the X-ray.
I see. You're
Uh,
creating problems.
yeah, but now that everything is digital and everyone has cameras everywhere, it's less important.
Just reminded me that I don't know if it was you or Randy who told me that that the Hive pieces on BoardSpace are it's actually a photo, right? It's actually
Yes.
a
Well,
photo of each piece.
it's based on a photo.
Yeah.
That's actually, it's a design characteristic of BoardSpace that I prefer to use actual photos as the basis for my artwork. But that's really because I have no artistic talent at all. If you ask me to draw, what a queen bee should look like, I'm like, I can, I couldn't draw a good looking picture to save my soul. So I can take a picture, and then I can manipulate it with Photoshop, and it gives a nice look.
Yeah, I actually like it very much. I don't know. I feel is I asked the people of Hive Game to actually implement something like that, because I like the feeling of having a bit of 3D
Mm-hmm.
3D board, 3D game, not just a flat
Right.
flat piece there.
Well, it's a peculiar way of dealing with the artwork that requires a bunch of um, manipulations that are not natural to web applications.
I see.
Because, for instance, on BoardSpace, all of the pieces, the game pieces, are all sized on the fly to exactly what your screen size is. And so, like on the BoardSpace Hive interface, when you say tile size and change the tiles to bigger tiles, I just rescale everything to the new size. That works very well if you start with stuff that is already much bigger than you're going to size it to. So you start with, relatively large pictures, and you can shrink them, and they still look pretty good. If you take small pictures and expand them, it looks crappy.
Yeah.
So for BoardSpace, all the artwork is oversized and gets dynamically shrunk to whatever size it needs to be. So there's a lot of machinery under the hood in BoardSpace to cache, to rescale and to cache and avoid doing all the work of rescaling more than once. Occasionally, you'll see when you move a piece, it comes in looking kind of scratchy, and then it resolves and is smooth again. And that's because there's different scaling algorithms that you use when time is available, but you do something quick and dirty when you really need to show something right now. Anyway, so that's a troublesome technical issue in doing the games the way I do them. If you use SVG graphics, you just have a graphics file and that scales instantly to any size, and no problem. But you don't get the realistic look, like I have on BoardSpace. On the other hand, if you use there are a number of engines that are used in video games a lot. There's Real Engine. Anyway, that give you realistic lighting and shadows, and you need accurate 3D models of the things that you're building. But then, given that you've got the 3D model, it produces fabulously beautiful artwork instantly, or well, on the fly at least. But it makes the programs really large and, relatively speaking, slow because of all the work that's involved in, it's basically doing ray tracing on the fly.
Yeah, more kinds. Yeah, more complex. I mean, I don't
Anyway,
understand
there are a lot of
more complex.
There are a lot of technical aspects of making a game one way or another that shouldn't interest anybody that is not making them. When you play them, it is what it is.
I think it's quite interesting. You never know, and you can inspire some new developers. Maybe some. There are new platforms coming out and new things. What I want to ask you something else. I forgot. But yeah, I mean, it's been already an hour and a half actually. Oh my. So I don't know. Is there anything else? Anything else you want to say for?
Well, I guess a couple of things. One is that the enduring frustration for running BoardSpace is just getting people to play. There are so many different games that, in my mind, they all should have a community of thousands of people playing them, and it's sometimes difficult to find one. So I don't know what the solution to that is. BoardSpace is my contribution to making the problem less. But it's it's definitely a source of frustration to
I mean,
to put in all the work and then to
I
have
can imagine.
nobody
Yeah.
really care. But that's the nature of programming. Uh, I've mused that I used to when I was employed, I worked for 3 or 4 different companies doing software, and I'm sure that no software that I ever wrote for money in my entire life is still being used. It's all completely ephemeral, and I'm easy with that. But given the ephemeral nature of software, it would be nice if you're still working on it, it was used.
No, yeah, I understand. Of course, I
Yeah,
imagine you put in so many hours, and
yeah. Well, but
but
the fun is in the making, not in the playing. Once I've finished a game and I forget it. And when I
yeah,
come
but
back to it, promotional or whatever, I say, "Oh yes, I remember this game. I need to play 3 or 4 games to remember the rules." You know.
I mean, it's definitely way more satisfying if someone else uses it, and I mean, I understand 100%. And Hive, I think, as I said, owes you. The Hive community owes you very much because, yeah, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here and nowhere here. I know we have another platform now, but still, I mean, uh, also it's not developed 100% yet. It's growing, but still there are a few things
Yeah. Well,
BoardSpace can be used for.
one of the things that I have to my advantage is that I'm working alone. I don't have to worry about collaborators. I don't have to convince anyone that they really should do this, except for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
one of the problems I see with Hive Game and with every other collaborative project is that there are lots of enthusiastic volunteers until it actually gets to actually working. At
yeah.
that point, people have a lot of things they want to do. You know,
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
so
It's difficult.
so if you're trying to develop your platform on the backs of volunteers, it's really difficult. And
Um,
it's just like trying to get people to play on Team Rest of World. Say, oh, I'm busy this week. I don't want to play next month. So
I mean, yeah, I
yeah.
understand also these
And
people.
also, on Hive Game, I see these divergent things. Like some people are saying, I'm really only interested in getting my robots to work, and other people say, well, you really need to get these timing algorithms down, and I really want to get the time lag problem fixed or whatever. People have their fixations and their preferences, and they're all pushing in different directions.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course. I mean, that's a
yeah.
problem of
Anyway, but
democracy, a
that's
problem
right.
of
But
getting
on BoardSpace,
together and
I don't have
agreeing.
that problem. I just have me.
Yeah, no, I understand. And no, I think also there are no other platforms, or you can count them on a hand, other platforms that have so many games available. So that's definitely a plus. Maybe the only problem that like the frustration comes from like the source of frustration why people don't use board space enough probably is the a bit of the design of it, the vintage look maybe.
You know,
And
I that's another one of my continual frustrations is that a lot of people say, gee, board space looks so old fashioned. I want something that looks more modern. And I say, okay, what exactly would that be? And I never hear back again.
I mean, I don't want yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to be
Well,
disrespectful. I'm
my
just
my
thinking
my long-term analysis is that people like what's familiar. And so what they really mean when they say, "Oh, it looks so old-fashioned" or "it doesn't look modern," is they're saying it's not what I expected.
maybe that's that as well. I mean, I like the look of the games personally. I like maybe less the look of the platform itself. Like I
Mhm.
think I'm used to it because I played many Hive games, but I
Yeah,
think it's not so intuitive for new people.
yeah.
And
Well,
the fact that
part of the I agree with you. Uh, Part of the problem is that there are so many games,
mm,
and there are so many different things that you're able to do, and accommodating all of them into the interface, you know, makes it more complex. If I, for instance, one of the things I've proposed informally, or when you were first talking about a new platform for Hive, I said, well, you could take BoardSpace, remove all the other games, make Hive Space, and it would be perfect. And I think that's actually the case for any game that you really wanted to make a solo platform for. If you're only making a game for that platform for that one game, you can simplify things, and then people will find it easier to approach. But from the viewpoint of a developer, um, you want to develop one platform, not 100.
oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
one of the one of the sidecars that I've done in recent years was I'm very interested in these platforms for playing tabletop games that are electronic. So there was a platform called Playtable, which is now completely gone. There was a platform called Last Game Board that is now completely gone. And there's a third platform called Infinity Game Table, which is ongoing, um, but it's mostly silly kid video games, not serious board games. So there are technical reasons why these big giant tablets sitting on your table are not ideal for board games. Um, but I'm very interested in them anyway. Uh, so one of the uh, last game board, for example, um, one of their requirements was that each game you add to the last game board had to be just one game. And I said, well, I've got this platform. It has 100 games. I'm not going to make 100 games for you. I've got one platform. They didn't agree with me. So my board space was never officially added to last game board, but they're gone now. So
I mean, I don't see the problem of having one platform for all.
well,
It's just that this platform has to be kind of easily accessible and
yeah.
intuitive,
Well,
and so I
they
guess that's
had
not easy.
last game board had the idea that they were going to be, a platform like Xbox, and they had their menu of games, and that they were going to have subscriptions, or they had different plans, but they wanted a uniform platform. They didn't want a bunch of little sidecar platforms that competed with their main platform. So I understand their point of view. I didn't agree with it, of course, but they were not successful. But of course, I was not successful either. So but I spent a lot of time. There's a lot of interesting things when you're doing uh, user interfaces for multiple people to use at the same time versus user interfaces that are for you to look at on a screen. So I had a lot of fun developing all that stuff. It's unfortunately just not being used. But you
It's
can
a
still
shame as
play
well.
it if you take the BoardSpace, the mobile versions of BoardSpace, and you put them on a large tablet. It's really nice for playing two-player games. So all of the GIF games that if you can find them at all, you'd spend $300 or $400 to buy all of the GIF games. You can play all of them on BoardSpace on your $50 tablet for free with another person. So just between you, you put the board down, you play it on,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that's something definitely that should be done more.
yeah.
I think I've
Oh,
seen
oh,
some.
yeah, right. So the other thing I wanted to promote is the idea that online games can do things that physical games either can't do or can't do well. Um,
Mm,
uh, and so I'm really interested in the idea of, breaking the mold of what you can do as a constraint in a board game because it's electronic instead of physical.
mm,
So, for example, in this most recent game that I did, which is called Bugspiel, um, I create the deck that you use in any given game using a fairly complicated procedure, from my master deck of 400 cards. Well, if I tried to make that into a physical game,
yeah, it would be a mess.
some games have these really elaborate setup procedures that says, okay, like Alhambra, divide the deck into 5 pieces, shuffle these cards into the second and third, blah, blah, blah. You have this really elaborate setup procedure that's, you get used to it, but it's not
Yeah,
natural. Uh, in online games, you can do that, and there's no problem. It's completely invisible. Uh,
I I agree with this
yeah.
point. I wholeheartedly agree. One of my favorite non-abstract games is Dominion,
Hmm.
deck building. Still play with some friends almost every week, quite
Hmm.
often. And you have to create 10 piles of like, randomized
Right.
different action cards plus all the victory cards, etc. And then after that, if you want to play a new game, you have to put all back in the box and take
And
like
make sure
the
you
set.
don't lose the card.
Exactly. So the
Yeah.
setup is quite boring, and playing online instead, yeah, it's an experience
Oh, and
because
and
in a
also
click,
that's part of it. But also, if you play on the Dominion Online place, all of the interactions of all of those cards, there are enormous numbers of interactions
yeah,
that are, that they're just handled automatically, and you never forget to, pay an extra dollar or take an extra
yeah,
card or whatever. So all of that complexity that is just you enforcing the rules is done by the computer, and that's perfect.
yeah,
I
very
gave
smooth.
away. I had 6 boxes of different versions, expansions of Dominion, and I
Hmm.
gave them away because I'm never going to play in person again,
Hmm.
except using the online app. And in fact,
Yeah.
it's really nice for a lot of games to play in person where everybody has their own laptop and they play
Yeah, in a
online.
way, yeah.
They
I've
play
done that as
online,
well.
but you just gather around a table so you can do the table talk and all that stuff. But all the messiness is taken care of
Yeah,
by
yeah,
the
I
computer
agree, I
that's
agree.
intermediating. My other favorite game that's an example of this is this game called Tantrix, which I
Mm,
also write the software for. But it's a really nice, almost abstract game where you draw tiles out of a bag. That's the only non-abstract part of it.
mm-hmm.
But the rules when you're playing in person, you have to spend at least half of your mental processing time making sure that you're following the rules.
Oh yeah, the
And
forced
right,
moves.
there are forced moves and forbidden moves, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's online though. It's no problem. Forced moves are forced,
Yeah,
and you cannot make an illegal
automatic.
move, and so you can concentrate on just the strategy for the game.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Although I mean if you can like also the feelings like the sensation of touching the pieces has its own
It has its own
meaning.
reward. Yeah, poking your touch screen is not the same.
So I mean I agree with you if you have to play with someone in the same room or if you cannot find anyone else playing or though because there are maybe 10 players in the world Yeah, definitely it's a good, it's a great thing to do. But yeah, I also like to think that if you can find someone to play with a physical board, it has a different flavor.
Yeah.
um, Regarding it, like the fact that BoardSpace is not used enough, apart from uh, like taste or intuitive or the personal, I don't know, like design, different things. But it's also that I think the games they're not popular, very popular themselves, and most of the community for these games probably play correspondence games. So I don't think it's
Well, that's another aspect that I'm curious about. Um, I don't like correspondence games as a general rule because they take too much time and you don't play well.
I agree with you 100%.
You
I,
know,
I play correspondence game only because I don't. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be able to play that game at all. So I prefer to be able to play two bad moves a day, because I usually forget what was my plan,
yes,
or
yes,
I play one move when I'm on the bus, or when I'm talking to someone, or I'm cooking. I don't know. So, and I play a very bad move, but I just think it's better than nothing. I'm not.
yeah,
I don't think correspondence games should be more. Should be promoted more. I'm just saying that probably since the community is already small, um, and
yes.
many
Well,
people.
correspondence games solve the problem of not being able to coordinate a time to play. And a
Yeah.
lot of people say, gee, this game takes, half an hour or an hour to play, and I just can't commit to that. So instead, they play a correspondence game, and either they spend, 1 minute at a time playing crappy moves, or they spend 10 minutes at a time, and therefore the 1 hour game becomes a 10-hour game because they spent so much time, recovering
Yeah.
their mental state and considering moves, de novo instead of having continuity. So
Yeah. No. No.
anyway, it's a compromise. Some people really like it. I don't. Um,
Yeah.
I
Actually, some
finally
people
add,
like it more
I
for
finally
some reason.
added the capability to have correspondence games to BoardSpace, but it hasn't been used very much.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, to be honest. So I
Yeah.
don't know, but I have enough bad games going on BGA, I think.
Yeah.
I was playing for some time on Abstract Play,
Hmm.
this platform, which seems also pretty nice. But I also gave up on that because I had too many platforms at some point, and I forgot about some games. I lost a few games on time. Sometimes I try again to start some games, but
Yeah.
rarely I finish them.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. But
Okay.
no, that.
Well, one final note.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I made everything of BoardSpace open source.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is inspired, they're free to clone it and make their own version that has all of my problems fixed. Uh,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
also they're free to, create new games using my framework. And if I like them, I'll put them on BoardSpace.
Cool. Yeah. I hope through
Okay.
YouTube this will reach someone somewhere in the world interested. It would be a shame to, yeah, not to use all this that you that you build, all this giant framework. So yeah, cool. If there is someone out there, get in touch.
Okay.
Thank you so much for give us your time, and
Right.
so interesting to understand a few things uh, behind board space, and yeah, in general how to make decision about these things. It's not trivial at all.
So my suggestion for you is to do more of these, but focused on particular topics and with multiple guests at the same time.
Oh, well.
Right. So if you had, for instance, me and Steve Taverner both on, both saying, talking about the problem of implementing abstract games, that would be an interesting conversation.
Oh, I'll be very happy to do it. I never
Yeah.
thought about it. I think I already had enough technical problems with one guest, but but I would love to. I think it would be way more interesting than me just trying to trying to come up with good questions. I think you would do a great job just by yourself. Have you
Yep.
have you met? Have you met in person? Or?
No, I've seen him on video a few times, but
Okay, yeah, I'm sure.
I'm out here in the boonies in Los Angeles, so I rarely get to meet anyone.
I see. Okay. I'll think about it. New format, more table, the abstract table. I will go all around the table chatting about it. Okay, cool. Thank you
Okay.
again, and thank you everyone for watching.
Right.